Today, we will be looking at reasons why some women are attracted to serial killers. With the rise of true crime documentaries came the rise of serial killer fans. And no, we aren't talking about fans of Zac Efron as Ted Bundy or Ross Lynch as Richard Dahmer. So if you're attracted to the idea of Hollywood stars dressed up as serial killers, you're probably in the clear. However, you should remember that the real-life Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer had fans too. People were sending love letters to Ted Bundy and forming a fan base called the Bundyphilles to petition for his release. Some were even getting tattoos of Hannibal Lecter. In fact, Tumblr is full of people sharing diary entries belonging to famous killers. Or writing fan fictions and meet cutes starring said killers. This obviously had its effect on the felons themselves. Some serial killers, like Richard Nightwalker Ramirez, went as far as marrying their fans. But the real question here is, why would women be attracted to such terrible people? Well, we're here to ease your curiosity by sharing 8 reasons why women are attracted to serial killers. But before we get started, please remember to take a quick second and support our content by liking, subscribing, and turning the notification bell on. This helps us create more videos like this for your entertainment. If you're all set, then let's get started. 1. They are suffering from the savior complex. Some women thrive on the idea of helping others. While this is often called a maternal instinct, it can actually be chalked up to suffering from the savior complex. Many serial killers, especially those who seem to have a taste for femicide, lure women in by posing as a distressed figure in need of a woman's touch. When turned around, this notion is also what attracts people to the felons behind bars. As most women are born with maternal instincts, it's normal to see these instincts kick in when someone needs help. But the savior complex goes beyond that. Many sufferers of the savior complex are actually trying to fill a void or a thought pattern that's been embedded in their minds since childhood. The savior complex results in perceiving people as fixer-uppers. Therefore, women feel an unquenchable need to allegedly fix or heal people who are emotionally or mentally broken. This complex could be traced back to childhood traumas, such as needing to take care of emotionally unstable parental figures. While there aren't substantial enough studies on the savior complex to lead to a solution, there are ways through which sufferers can seek out some help. 2. They are chasing fame. Oftentimes, people will identify self-worth with fame. While these two things are by no means in correlation, growing up with certain societal norms or getting bullied can sometimes result in the abused party wanting to become famous. Even today, the road to fame is usually a rocky and long, winding one, unless you're an overnight TikTok sensation. However, the reason that gets people talking is rarely of importance to people who are obsessed with taking the shortcut to fame. This makes a lot more sense considering people didn't have any means of social media access back in the 60s. So going to court for situations like Ted Bundy's Florida trial in 1967, or associating with a serial killer to get media coverage and sell the story was one way of doing this. Sometimes, even reporters would fall victim to the charms of the interviewees while being on the clock and chasing a story. This was a perfect way of social climbing back in the day. 3. They lack self-respect. Many of the women who show affinity for serial killers and other types of felons have some shared traits. The most prominent one of those traits is their shared lack of self-respect. These women mostly come from backgrounds of abuse in either their familial relations or romantic affairs. Combined with the lack of self-respect, the exposure to abuse leads them to believe they are deserving of this behavior. This belief could also be backed up by added verbal abuse on the part of the abuser. Surrounding oneself with friends and family who showcase passive behavioral traits can be another reason. As a result, these victims end up seeking dangerous people who will likely continue to carry out this pattern of physical or emotional abuse. Unless the victims are subject to therapy, their negative thought patterns and cycles will likely never be broken. In such cases, sufferers should be encouraged to seek out professional help to break their toxic cycles. 4. The false notion of safety. When a felon has been put behind bars, it automatically leads the public to think that they are now safe from the vile acts of said felon. What most people don't realize is that this often proves to be false. Going to prison doesn't change people. However, women fail to pick up on this due to their infatuation with the criminal. Women who suffer from hybristophilia can unconsciously think that this person is now safe to approach because they are behind bars. There's also the added feel of safety due to how these criminals allegedly won't be able to cheat on them while behind bars. While this isn't always true, it's often an underlying supporting belief. One more thing that adds to this false sense of safety is how women think that they are in control because the object of desire is behind bars. This may seem reasonable at first, but considering how manipulative these criminals can be, it is often not the case. If anything, the criminals could end up using this affection to have access to their outside connections in life. While the criminal may be less likely to commit murder when behind bars, after the eventual release, they may fall back into old patterns. Therefore, many people would say that relying on this false notion of safety is utterly dangerous and detrimental. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. 5. Being attracted to deviance. Deviance, by definition, allows people to depart from societal and sexual norms. This is one of the reasons why women find themselves attracted to serial killers and other people with vile track records. Feelings such as deviance can trigger certain neurotransmitters. One of these neurotransmitters that are being released is called norepinephrine, also known as noradrenaline. Norepinephrine is also a hormone. It responds to the individual's instincts of fight or flight and can increase blood pressure. The increase of blood pressure can often result in an increase in arousal and hyperfocusing. The attraction to deviance stems from mistaking negative behavioral patterns for a form of mating sign or attraction. People are also attracted to the deviant because they are rebellious, captivating nature. Women who show an affinity for deviant people often share a common problem of impulsive behavior with some added addiction of risk-taking. 6. A fascination with darkness and violent behavior. While most people wouldn't consider narcissistic or psychopathic behavior appealing, there will always be a portion of women who find erratic behavior to be a mystery that begs to be solved. Of course, there is a psychological explanation to this. The answer to this lies behind something called the dark triad. The dark triad is the name given to 3 traits that attract both women and men to people that showcase dark and violent behaviors. These traits are identified as the following: Machiavellianism, narcissism, psychopathy. So why has the dark triad become the focal point of hybristophilia sufferers? Let's take a deeper look. According to a research done by behavioral scientists Nicholas Holtzman and Michael Stroop, a person's tendency to have an affinity towards people showcasing these traits, also known as their dark triad score, depended heavily on the psychological aspects. Because when the scientists tested people's attraction to physical appearances, the dark triad scores came out the same for attractive and unattractive attire. Research prior to that of Holtzman and Stroop proved that narcissistic behavior was the main reason for people's attraction to darkness. Some subjects even reported that they felt the attraction at first sight. This is because of the increased confidence found in narcissists. This confidence affects how the object of desire carry themselves and present their traits and abilities to the other party. Moral of the story is think twice before approaching a narcissist because they will most likely fool you with their seemingly innocent act of being put together. 7. Premature thinking. Premature thinking is a defect that a lot of people suffer from in their day-to-day lives. This often goes unnoticed by the untrained thinker or simply brushed off as a childish quirk, but when someone with premature thinking tendencies starts mixing with the wrong crowds, things start to get hectic. To put it simply, people with premature thinking patterns are basically mentally stuck in the earlier stages of their lives. While this can be chalked up to a mental condition or being on the spectrum, it's often a trauma response or parental neglect. The parental neglect hinders emotional growth because the individual is expected to grow up way too quickly or fend for themselves at an early age. In short, leaving children unsupervised actually affects them in the long run, sometimes even extending into their adult lives. People who suffer from premature thinking will perceive these serial killers as a bad boy whom they simply must detain. Sounds similar to the craving every high school girl has for that one brooding bad boy, doesn't it? Well, that's because it's the exact same thing. The desire for the bad boy has been around for longer than you can begin to think of. Especially for teenage girls, the backbenchers with low grades and immoral natures have always been more attractive. But the question is, why? The can-do attitude and deadly stares are two of the main reasons why women are attracted to the bad guys. While in the light of rational thinking, you would run from anybody who looked at someone like they were about to commit murder. People who showcase immature thinking patterns do the exact opposite. Their neglected pasts result in the need for a protector, someone who can show up and say, "Don't you dare touch her." This also stems from primitive thinking, but let us be the ones to tell you aggression is not what makes someone a real man. 8. Unrealistic self-confidence. Confidence is a positive trait to have. It helps you stand out and stand up for yourself. But just as anything can get unhealthy after a certain extent, so can confidence. Having extreme confidence in oneself is another common reason why women are drawn to serial killers. Many women get themselves into this spiral by thinking, "Oh, I can totally change him. He just needs some love and affection. You'll see." But if that were true, people wouldn't be behind bars for murdering their family members, would they? This kind of confidence often brings people to their downfalls. And the truth is that affection can't rewire anyone's brain, unless they're willing to change. The repetitive behavior of serial killers, emphasis on the word serial, suggests not only that they are not prone to changing, but also that they won't stay with anybody long enough to change. And that marks the end of our video. If you enjoyed watching this, then be sure to let us know by giving us a thumbs up. Want to be the first to know when we have a new video? Then turn on the bell to be notified every time we upload one. Finally, if you're looking for something to binge watch, you can click on the video that's currently on your screen. We'll see you in our next video.